Hard to capture, extravagant, resurrect the track and it's militant. And I react like a convict and start killing. It's manifested. The gods work like appliances, dealing in my sacred life.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explained here, and today I want to have a real talk conversation with you guys, okay? So normally I don't do videos like this. I normally don't just do these heart-to-heart conversations unless it's like a Q&A conversation. It's very rare that I make a video like this where I'm just talking directly to the audience. However, now we need to have some real talk, okay? So I've run across quite a few comments and I've had quite a few people send me DMs, and I've read different things on Twitter, whether it be people replying under the breaking news about Masashi Kishimoto coming back and taking over the Boruto story and still serving as editor, but now taking on increased responsibility with the Boruto franchise by doing the story and removing Ukyo Kodachi. And I want to address all of that. I've already done the video talking about the actual news, but I've seen a lot of people concerned that Kishimoto being back means that the actual story is going to change, and I wanted to wait until after Boruto chapter 52 came out because I wanted to see, I really wanted to see how Kishimoto would approach a chapter that was going to be very action oriented, very action heavy. And the thing, number one, I'm going to say is that this felt like a Kishimoto chapter. This wasn't his art, but when I say it felt like a Kishimoto chapter, is the fact that the action was slowed down in certain areas, but there was so much that actually went on in the chapter, and it wasn't done via an info dump. And so I want to kind of have this conversation now. So I don't think that Kishimoto is going to ruin Boruto. In fact, I think that's the dumbest thing ever. Like, I understand why a lot of people are saying, well, we've had Kodachi for a long way, and a lot of people are very hesitant of change. They don't want to change the direction in the middle of the story. And the reason why I'm going to tell you I don't think that this is a bad move, let's just be real with ourselves and look at the Boruto anime first, okay? So when you look at the Boruto anime, what are the arcs that are universally, and I'm not gonna say universally because there's always gonna be that one person or that small group of people that's the exception to the rule, but when you look at the reception with the Boruto anime, what's been the overwhelming response with the positive arcs in the series? So you have the Naruto Gaiden portion, a lot of people said, oh, this was really good. You have the versus Momoshiki arc, a lot of people said this was a really good arc. You had people talking about the Mitsuki one-shot adaptation where Mitsuki was fighting against Log and Orochimaru. A lot of people said that that was cool. You had the time slip arc where Naruto meets his son because Boruto goes back in time and meets the younger version of Naruto. That arc had some issues when it comes to power scaling, but you know, Boruto as a whole has had issues when it comes to power scaling. So take that out. A lot of people were genuinely excited about that. And when you look at those things, what do all those have in common? Those are all arcs that Masashi Kishimoto directly was the one who wrote the story for them, or they're episodes that Masashi Kishimoto directly wrote the story for them. Now, when you look at the Mujina Bandits arc, that was very well received. That was very well received, but I know for myself, just looking at the traffic and looking at the analytics when it comes to the search terms, that people were searching more for those older arcs than they did for the Mujina Bandits arc when that came out. I saw the difference with the metadata based on how people were searching on YouTube for the actual clips, and when you go through and you look at the ratings and everything, there was a more consistent drive with some of the Kishimoto stuff than you had with the stuff that Ukyo Kodachi was overseeing. So I don't think that this is a bad thing, and I want to kind of tie this in with another aspect of it, because I don't want to necessarily just piss off the Kodachi fans. I don't, because as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of lore, and under Kodachi has actually been trying to go back and actually fill some of the plot holes that Kishimoto did with the Kaguya character, because there was a lot of stuff with the character of Kaguya that if you just read the Naruto manga, so the hell with the filler arc that you had in Naruto Shippuden, if you just read the Naruto manga, Kaguya was a horrible character. And so when you start looking at how he's tried to handle that, and and you look at the complexity of Kara, I think a lot of us would agree that Kara does not have the memorable impressions that the Akatsuki had, but when you look at how Kara operates, it's superior to the Akatsuki on that level. And so you have to tip your hat and give that nod there. But when you start talking about memorable characters, there's nobody that's in the Kara organization that's hits you in the same way that the psychopath Hidan hits you, or there's nobody that has that depth that Sasori had. Outside of a little bit of a plot twist with Kashi and Koji, there's been no depth to these characters. And so when you start looking at Kishimoto, that's something that you can start expecting. You can start expecting more depth to some of the antagonists, actually getting a little bit more information on the antagonists and actually seeing more of how they're actually being driven by their ideals. That's not something that Kodachi has done very well with the Boruto manga. I get it, the manga is more of a snapshot, but I call it a snapshot because of the way that Kishimoto draws, not because of how Kodachi actually writes the story. Because when you look at how Kodachi writes, he does a bunch of info dumps and he does a lot of exposition. If you read the novelizations that he's done, the Gar novel and the Boruto movie novel, there's a lot of exposition, and he takes more of the subtle approach when it comes to the actual development. Kishimoto puts it more out there in your face, and Kishimoto does things in a very fast pace. Like, if you don't read the Naruto manga, you do not know how fast Kishimoto progresses through things. To give you guys an example, for the Naruto manga, literally within 20 volumes, no, in less than 20 volumes, we went from the time skip portion to the end of the pain arc within 20 volumes. Like, well, that's a lot of volumes. Yeah, that's 10 chapters. That's 10 chapters a pop. That is a lot of story to cover in an 18, 19 volume space. Now, if you look at a Boruto chapter is roughly 2.5 chapters in a weekly format setting. So if you round that up, it's damn near 3 chapters worth of content. So when you look at that, basically every 3 chapters of the Boruto series is almost an entire Naruto manga volume. So when you start looking there and you look at the fact that Boruto's manga right now is 13 volumes in, almost 14 volumes if I'm not mistaken. I think that we're starting volume 14 now. If you look at that, we have not spanned an incredible length of time story-wise. We've had the Mujina Bandits portion, we've had the Owl portion, we've had this current portion now. I say that to say, go back and look at how fast-paced Kishimoto did everything. If you look at the way that he's done his stuff, if you would have gave Kishimoto 6 or 7 volumes to actually tell a story, we would have progressed at a much faster rate. The stuff that's going on with Ishiki would have been wrapped up, or there would have been more depth added to it. Because one of the things I've seen a lot of people say is, like, when you look at Ishiki, they say Ishiki's goals aren't necessarily stated out, like what's actually driving him, and you have to dig down and look at the philosophical reasons on how he views humans and everything. There is something there with Ishiki, but I think that we can all agree they could have done a better job actually presenting that type of information. The same thing, if you look at the Boruto manga, look at how they handled the character of Ao. There was no real explanation of how he survived a 10 tails Biju Dama that wiped out the Alliance headquarters. There's no real explanation. It's like, oh, ninja tech. Yeah, he got enhanced by ninja tech, and that's how Ao stayed alive. But let's be real for a second. Everybody else died. He's the only one who escaped, and I guess found an underground bunker and was able to escape, and he was able to, like, that is so convenient. But again, if this would have been Masashi Kishimoto, we actually would have gone back to that scene and we would have saw things play out, and there would have been more information that was actually dumped there. So I say all that to say, I understand why a lot of people are worried that Kishimoto coming back means that certain plot points can be dropped and that characters like Sarada won't get the best development. And I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I'm somebody that enjoys Sarada's character, but what was Sarada's best arc in manga format? It was Naruto Gaiden. It was definitely not in the Boruto manga. What has Sarada done in the Boruto manga as far as a character arc? She hasn't had one. So I'm more so on the side of, I've got faith that Kishimoto is going to be able to tell a pretty quick moving story while also giving us quite a bit of depth there and building in extra room in the manga for the anime to actually start fleshing things out at a better pace. I think that when you start reading the Boruto manga going forward, it's not going to be a snapshot format. Instead of us us just getting the bread for a sandwich and a couple of ingredients, say lettuce and tomato and spinach and pepper, and I'm getting hungry now. Instead of getting stuff like that, you're actually going to start getting some of the meat there. So I definitely think that this was probably something for the better change right here. Because again, I know Kishimoto's manga Samurai 8 failed. I understand that that failed. And yet at the same time, from what I've been told that Samurai 8, when it comes to world building, when it comes to lore, it absolutely donkey shits on what we've gotten in the Boruto manga. I've not read Samurai 8, but I can say, like, look, like the dude, yeah, sure, Samurai 8 got canceled, but the guy also was in Weekly Shonen Jump for 14 years. And Jump is super cutthroat, so to be able to make that type of an impact and make a series as big as what he did with Naruto, I think that there should be more excitement, in my opinion. I don't think we should have a very vocal minority of people saying that this is gonna absolutely ruin the series. So I want to know from you guys, how do you guys feel about this? Do you think that the disrespect shown to Kishimoto, and I'm gonna call it disrespect, do you think the disrespect shown to Kishimoto out of the fear that the story is going to change too much, do you think that it's warranted? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.